Hey, what's up? This is Twisted Mind, and you're watching the First Look series, an overview of the changes made to your class going into the Mists of Pandaria. All hunters will now notice that they have the True Shot aura regardless of their spec, increasing their melee and range attack power by 10%. Also notice that your aspect of the Hawk now does a flat 10% multiplier to your attack power instead of a flat number. This will affect your scaling. Also, you notice your Hunter's Mark now does just a flat 5% debuff on the target for range attack power. Also note that this is for all players, not just yourself, so it stacks with other hunters. As a baseline, all hunters will have that rapid fire cooldown that we've always had, but also now we have readiness, regardless of spec. It's nerfed to a 5-minute cooldown, but this is an overall buff for all hunter specs, even the retuned marksman. A great quality of life change is the change to Trap Launcher. It's now a permanent buff that can stay up on you that can toggle on and off by the press of the button. This means that you don't have to have any more crazy macros or those fast switching trap launcher trap sort of play style. There was also a few changes to the focus costs and retunings. You'll notice that your steady shot now generates a whopping 14 focus, and your arcane shot only costs 20 focus. This means a lot less oscillating focus bars going into mists. Also notice that your kill shot is a proper execute and will take top priority in most of the new shot rotations. And check out the new best quality of life change for hunters. Dead range? Not anymore. That's right, you can now shoot things in melee range. There is no such thing as a dead zone. Not only is this a massive buff to PvP, but it's also awesome in PvE. No more hunters standing outside of healing circles because they can't get too close to the boss. And before I get into the hunter specs, check out what's going on with our pets. Just like our tab, our pets now have their own spec tab, and what's even better, any pet can be any specialization. That's right, turtles can be ferocity. Cats can be cunning. You can pretty much do any combination. Even exotic pets have this choice. Note that the pets still have their unique buffs and their unique abilities, so really it comes down to your own creativity as to which pets you want to mix and match in your arsenal. This adds a much needed depth to the class, and I can't wait to see this in challenge modes. When you do spec Beast Mastery, you'll lose Steady Shot and it'll be replaced with your Cobra Shot. And aside from the focus costs, not a whole lot has changed with the spec. You'll notice that Bestial Wrath is now on a shorter cooldown, but it also has a shorter duration. And upon specking, you'll get the bigger focus pool, so this is the spec that's supposed to fluctuate most in focus, but really it's the exact same rotation that we had in Cataclysm. Mark the target, apply Serpent Sting, try to keep your stacks at 5 Frenzy for the attack speed range boost, and maximize your kill shots and arcane shots. Double kill shot in execute range. And enjoy readiness. To be competitive with the other specs, your AoE got a slight boost. You still spam multi-shot, drop an explosive trap on the ground, but you'll see that your pet gains a cleave every time you do a multi-shot, and your mastery is the same from the previous expansion. When you spec Marksman, you'll notice it's the only spec that retains its core steady shot as its filler. Your aim shot still costs the same amount of focus, but it did get a tweak to its damage, so it hits a little bit harder. Your Chimera shot is now at the 9-second cooldown, as if it was glyphed from the last expansion. It also got a tweak in damage and now does 3% of your total health and healing, but you can glyph it up to 5% if you really want that. You'll notice that you can actually aim shot a little bit more frequently now because your Master Marksman has to stack to 3 stacks instead of 5 in order to proc its instant free aim shot. And you'll also know what used to be the improved steady shot is now baked into the steady shot rotation, and instead of a 7-second duration, it's all the way up to a 10-second duration. Not only that, but when you go to refresh it, it actually gives you another 3 additional focus onto your steady shot, which has already been souped up in focus. What this means going into the next expansion is haste as a secondary stat will probably soft cap a lot sooner than it did in the last expansion. You'll also notice competitive AoE, as Bombardment is now a passive that goes along with specking Marksman. On top of that, you'll also notice that you get a little bit more control, because the passive Concussive Barrage is now also baked in with specking Marksman. But otherwise, you'll notice that your Marksman rotation plays the exact same as it did in the previous expansion. You might be able to fit in a few more arcane shots, but for the most part it should feel very familiar. You still want to do your careful aim rotation for targets that are above 90% health of aim shots and steady shots. But then once they dip below, just follow your normal priority that you had in the previous expansion. Just note that kill shot now probably takes priority over top of Chimera, unless Serpent Sting is literally about to fall off. And also adjust for the more frequent free aim shots in your rotation by throwing in some more arcanes. The theory crafters are hard at work trying to figure out if aim shot is a better focus dump than arcane, but for now just do your arcane shots as your focus in between shots, and then only use your aims with the freebie proc. Time will tell if we should be using aim shot at maybe 2 or 1 stacks. Survival will also unlearn their steady shot in favor of Cobra shot as soon as you spec for it. There is a pretty huge change to explosive shot in its focus. It now only costs 25, all the way down from 50. And you'll notice that your black arrow cost was up to 35. This was probably changed to fit the new mastery. As you see here, it's now sort of the spell damage spec. It looks interesting, but just keep crit as your primary stat. It sims better because of the low explosive shot damage on beta. Speaking of explosive shot, this is one of the spells that got the same treatment as all the ignite type spells, in that when you overlap the dot on top of it, it just stacks with the preceding number of ticks on the last dot with the new dot. So essentially that means you don't have to spread out your lock and load procs anymore. Just feel free to mash them all back to back. And like the other hunter specs, survival is pretty much the exact same rotation as it was in Cataclysm. Just note that your kill shot takes the priority over explosive shot. But otherwise, you'll find it's very familiar. The haste caps still have to be worked out for soft capping in between your explosive shots and your rotation, but I would tentatively say that you'd probably need a little bit more, because you're probably going to be squeezing in 2 Cobras, then an Arcane, then an Explosive, thanks to the lower cost of explosive shot. Because the rotations are so similar to the previous expansion, what's really going to change things up is your talents. For one, level 60 talents is the focus regen tier. It'll drastically change the way that you play, or basically how many arcane shots you can squeeze into your rotations. Last time I checked on this, these were off the global cooldown, so you can macro them in with your rotation and react accordingly. Your level 75 tier will give you your DPS cooldown. Your DPS cooldown is more of a short range on all of the 75 abilities. I'm not going to comment on which ones are better than the other, because as of the last build they were still tweaking with the Murder of Crows ability, so time will tell to see which ones will gain the most DPS, but theoretically they're all supposed to be equal in player preference. The level 90 abilities are also still being tweaked, but essentially we did get blue confirmation that you're supposed to be using these at the top of your rotation, so they're kind of like the supremacy shot that you're supposed to use whichever one you pick or spec for. And we're also going to get one more additional ability called Stampede. It's something the community's asked for a long time. Basically, all of your pets that are in your stable, that's the 5 pets that you have available from your Call Pet ability, are all going to be unleashed on a target. Now, this will be a theoretical loss of DPS if you have 5 pets that, and like not all 5 of them are ferocity pets, so there's a minor glyph that you can use that will change this ability to just copy the pet that you have out 5 times. And I didn't really cover any of the glyphs in our rotations, but essentially there's a lot of really cool ones out there, and I thought glyphs were supposed to have drawbacks to speccing to them, but most of the hunter glyphs don't seem to have that, so definitely give a look through on a popular website to see what the new glyphs are. Some of them are like really cool. If you like this vid or others on my site, you can help support me by liking, favoriting, subscribing, and even commenting. I'll try to respond best I can. And thanks for all the support, guys. I really do appreciate it.